Welcome to Sex on the Floor podcast. This podcast was created to help educate the public about problems with sex and intimacy and how this is tied to both physical and mental aspects. Hosted by myself, Dr. Molly Hart, a passionate pelvic floor physical therapist and owner of Pelvic Balance Physical Therapy, and by Dr. Katie Schubert, a phenomenal sex therapist and owner of Cypress Wellness Center. We are here to have a good time. We're here to keep it real with you all and to educate along the way. I'm so excited for you to join us. We strive to help many relationships prosper in fun, safe, and healthy intimacy. While listening to the show, please remember that this information is not meant to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. Please speak with your medical provider for all things related to your healthcare. Hello all, welcome back to Sex on the Floor podcast. It's Dr. Molly Hart and we got Dr. Katie Schubert here. We are running around like crazy, just like we always are. Her and I were just sharing before we got on the chaos of our life. And so we're going to do an episode today about the chaos of your life. And there's a lot of stuff going on politically in our country. And then here in Florida in St. Pete, where we are, we just had 2 hurricanes hit and a lot of people have been displaced, flooded. It's been a hot mess. There's a lot going on. So that's where we're taking the episode today. So, Dr.
Yeah, we thought, sorry.
No, go. Yeah, go.
Chaos. So we thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit about how to navigate stress and relationships. We've discussed a little bit previously about how to mitigate stress when it shows up in your body. But I thought maybe a refresher on that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little just like personal innuendo to kind of help this more relatable. Right now, Katie's got a ton of projects going on. I myself flooded. We lifted everything in our house by myself because my husband's military, evacuated, came home, had to rehab the whole house. Milton came, had to put all of my stuff in a 26-foot U-Haul, leave, evacuate again, came back, just got the house ready. We just hosted Thanksgiving, and then we just bought a house and moved. So literally in a week, I closed, I hosted Thanksgiving, I packed, I moved, and our renter's moving in tomorrow. Like my life's been chaos. There's a lot going on with family and friends with the political system and trying to hold support for them and our patients. So I wanted to just share that because even though all of this is going on, I want to talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system again. Myself personally, the past 2 months, I have been highly in sympathetic mode. I'm very aware of that because this was a very stressful event in my life. But your body can handle short-term intense stress like that. Actually, it's not bad for the body. Now, if I stayed like this for months on end, I would create illness in my body. I would create physical illness and even like mental illness because you can't stay in a sympathetic state. And even though I've been in this state, what I have been doing intentionally, I sit down and do mindful eating 3 times a day. I always make sure at the end of the night, I have been like extra cuddling my kids. I mean, extra squishes and cuddles because it's so like good for you. And I really prioritize my sleep. I take a really long shower. I also bought recently the coolest sound speakers. By the way, I need to show you these sound speakers. Let me show them. They're a little pricey, but they're so freaking cool. They're called Now. They're like $180, which sounds crazy, but they're the sound bowl and they kind of vibrate. And so I put them on me and they only play for 3 minutes on purpose, the person who developed them. And so whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I put these on and it immediately calms you like into parasympathetic state. So even when your life is chaos, you can still get yourself some parasympathetic time. So that's what we want to talk about in this episode is because there's a lot going on, but you can't let your body stay ramped up without serious consequences starting to occur. So, anyways, we can kind of take the conversation from there.
Yeah.
Where you want to go next?
Well, I think maybe I've been seeing a lot of clients in my office who they're worried about election results. B, they're worried about spending time with family over the holidays. And this is just a general feeling that they get every time the holidays roll around. And now they have compounded worries about anything like political, socio-political coming up during these holiday celebrations because they can cause a lot of tension during these get-togethers. Um, so there's been a lot of uh,
Stressor.
internal tension with the clients. Yes, and it's causing issues in relationships too. As you said, like our bodies can handle short-term bursts of stress, but when we're under stress, we we can't handle stimulation, external stimulation as well as when we're not stressed out. So
Yeah, you
like,
don't have the room for it. You're
if
already at
we've been
max,
stressed out,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if we've been stressed out for the past month and our kids are being insane, we're more likely to snap at them. Or if our partners are being difficult or not helping in the ways that we want to, we're more likely to get in fights with them. So we're less likely to handle all the stimulation around us because there's so much internal stimulation. We're on, high drive. So I've been seeing all sorts of relationship suffering because people have been under a lot of stress in Florida, particularly because of all the
Yeah.
hurricanes, and then just in general because you know shit's stressful right now.
Yeah. You know what I would love to know from a psychologist standpoint is I'm on Facebook groups and I've seen so many people talk about on my feed. I mean, they're just completely writing off a lot of relationships with their family, with their friends because of what's going on politically. And oh man, it's so hard for me to see that. I'm gonna be honest. Because I personally am somebody who I'm so incredibly understanding of other people's experiences and viewpoints on life and not placing judgment on it. Like I don't need somebody to agree with me or I don't need to agree with them to like still love them and care about them and have a good relationship. But because things are so polarized in our country, it's breaking big, vital, important relationships apart right now. So I guess like from your standpoint, when people are coming in to work with you is I guess what advice do you have for people on how to handle that appropriately?
I'm not sure that there's an appropriate way to handle it. I'm seeing marriages being pulled apart because of different beliefs. And I think that the thing that is really kind of becoming glaringly obvious is that it's not just about political ideological differences at this point. It's more about like what that represents.
Yeah.
So, you know, partners are coming in and saying, "Well, we voted for different people in this election, and this has been really hard to reconcile." And then they're like, "This feels kind of silly because like it's politics. Like we're letting politics, break us up." And that's not what it is. It's about the way that we see things. It's our views, it's our morality, it's our, all the things that are important to us as individuals and what we want our future to look like, what we want our children's futures to look like. So it's one of those things that you definitely want to avoid at family functions. You don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it. But it's not something that you're going to get to an agreement on with one conversation. Probably not even with, a million conversations because we are so generally set in our beliefs and our values that talking about these issues with people likely isn't a really fantastic way to form bonds and connections.
What are your thoughts on so I would say over the last 5 years, after losing my parents, going through serious, crazy, intense life changes with my family dynamics because of that, and seeing how we all process my mom's death differently, and da 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 da, and having birthed two children, my brothers weren't in that stage of life. They didn't understand me. They were never going to understand me. What I came to the conclusion of is, and it was really good for me, and it took a lot of grief and crying and anger and just like fighting. But now I'm at a level of peace, and really what I've come to is I don't need anyone to understand me. In fact, no one's going to understand me because no one's lived my life, and I'm never going to understand them, and I'm never going to understand exactly the way that they think. And I don't care to anymore fully understand somebody. I just accept them the way they are. And I just want, I'm hoping, and the people that love me, can you just accept me the way I am? As long as nobody's harming each other, I really like there has to be that. So I guess with all the differences going on, like let's talk about husband and wife because that's an intimate relationship. That's not just like, a distant uncle. Um, when you have
Absolutely.
different beliefs and not even just politically, but just like different core values and beliefs, because it happens all the time. Like my brother's a die-hard, intense, like loves Jesus, and his wife, like, no. There's a Last Supper. I have a Last Supper plaque that my mom had growing up in our house, and I have it in my kitchen. And my brother saw it and he's like, Molly, like, oh my God, I want that. Can I have that? And I was like, no. I was like, that's mine. Like, I don't want to give that to you. It represents so much to me because I was in my household. I called him after and told him, I'm like, we can share it. Like 1 year you can have it, 1 year I can have it. But his wife goes, what about what I think? Like she's like, I don't want that in my house. Like absolutely totally against Jesus. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, I find that so interesting. I'm like, how are you all married? And you have these two, like, but they love each other. So like you don't have to agree on everything in order to have a relationship work. But that is
No,
not easy to navigate. I'm realizing.
I mean, it's easier for some people than others. Some people are more in the mindset like of you where you're like, I'm just gonna, love unconditionally and you can do what you want to do. And then other people find that really difficult,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. I think it's person dependent. It's the kinds of things that you've gone through in your life. It's informed by who you are as a person, who is around, who's in your family, who's around you, who you love, what policies can affect the people that are around you and that you love. So it's so friggin' complicated. And, that's again why, I mean, it's funny for me to say something like avoid a conversation because I'm like, let's communicate, let's talk about it, let's hash it out. But like, friggin' avoid these conversations.
For
Like,
the
you're
family
not going to change people's
holidays,
minds.
yeah. Yeah, for family holidays, like if
Uh,
it's not somebody you have an intimate, close relationship with, oh my gosh, don't talk about it because you're not going to get anywhere. But what about, I want to focus, like, I really want to talk about, like, what about the people who are in your everyday life? Like, what about when you don't agree with your husband or
yeah.
your sister or your brother? Like people who are you see on a weekly basis, because you can't avoid the conversations fully then. Or it's probably not healthy
Yeah. So with a
to,
partner,
right?
I mean, with your partner, I think that it's if you're going to approach these situations or these conversations, it's a good idea to approach them with respect and curiosity. Those are probably the two filters to use when you're talking about things that could be hot topics. Um, but again, like some people get together early on in life and then they just kind of grow apart. And part of that growing apart means like coming up with different ideologies or beliefs or values or whatever. And that can be incredibly difficult to reconcile when you're not on the same page as your partner. Maybe you guys have kids together, you're having a hard time co-parenting because of these different values and beliefs. Um, it
Yeah,
can be very difficult
I think
to
bringing
reconcile.
kids
And
into it would be really hard because how are we raising our kids? Like, what values are we teaching our kids? What world are we
yeah, absolutely.
agreeing that we want to create for our kids? Yeah.
Right, right. Like what messages are we giving them about important and what's not important and all the things. So, it's a lot of marriages do break up because of this. it
Mm,
is a it's a valid reason for two people to go separate ways and decide to co-parent as co-parents and not as partners. Um, but if you can sit back and treat those conversations with respect and curiosity, that's probably the best bet for those conversations going well.
yeah, absolutely. It's hard. But the way I think though too, I'm like, even if you separate, there's still two parents still going to influence the kids, right? So whether you're together, or you're separate, your children are going to be influenced by both people, and both people are going to parent different. They're going to think different. They're going to teach things different. And is that such a bad thing? Um, we don't have control over it, so that's hard to
Yeah.
accept. But it's you can't unless the person leaves or is dead, like that person's gonna influence your child. They're one of the parents.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of like the sociological research on this says that what kids really need after a divorce is just two parents that get along and that are respectful for each other. And if that's easier to do when you're not together, then by all means, like co-parent that way because your kids do need to see you guys getting along.
Yeah, that's
And
a good
some people just
point.
can't get
Yeah.
along. Yeah, if they have
Do-
these different values and beliefs, they can't do it.
They can't do it. Do you see? So in my personal life experience, but I am not a therapist like you are with the level of people that you work with for marriages. In my personal life, my friends who have gotten divorced that don't get along, once they get divorced, it gets even worse though. Like it gets more intense, more chaotic, more like disrespect and psychoticness. And honestly, I feel so bad for the kids in these situations. I'm like, this is so bad. So I've never, that's not true. I have one friend actually. I shouldn't say that. I have one friend. It was really bad. They got divorced. They went to therapy and they are co-parenting really well together now. So I do have one personal
Yeah.
example. So I'm just curious, like how many people who don't get along as parents and are having these conflicts and this disrespect get divorced and actually can co-parent well together? I wonder what the percentage of that is.
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe we can. I think if people do get therapy to learn how to co-parent separately, um, their chances of co-parenting and getting along with each other is probably much higher. But I mean
I mean, either
that
way,
takes
people
some
need
gut.
therapy. That's really what it comes down to. They just need
Yeah.
therapy. Get
Yes.
therapy while you're together and see if you can make it work. And if you can't, then get therapy for how to co-parent well together once you divorce if you have kids. Like that's the answer to me. Oh gosh. Okay, so this stress though, all the stress that's going on.
Mhm.
Something I want to tell a story about this stress and how it can affect you guys because a lot of people don't understand the human body fully. I have a neighbor who I just talked to yesterday. We all just flooded. She has a past history of back pain. From 17 years old, got in a car accident. Her back is so flared right now. It's really, really bad. So she's worried. She's like, I need to go get, she's like, I've been going to chiropractor and it's not getting better. The x-ray doesn't show anything. I think I need an MRI. She's panicking. But she just flooded. Her house that she raised all four of her kids in, that she's been in for like, I think 25 plus years, flooded. All of her stuff flooded. Um, she's living in a teeny little apartment. Her life is in chaos right now and not expected. Um, so she didn't understand. I said, well, when did your back start hurting? I said, was it when the floods happened? Yes. I go, it's because you're flared. I was like, this is a flare. And people don't understand when we are stressed, emotionally going through that, you are physiologically going to possibly have symptoms show up. Everybody's body is different. We all have vulnerabilities. So for her, because she had been in an accident at 17, that is forever and always going to be a vulnerable spot for her. I have a past history of an ACL tear. I also broke my left ankle recently. So now, every time I get stressed, where do I feel it? I feel it in my right and my left knee. I feel it in the knee, not the ankle because it's going up the chain. But it's because of that past injury. So I always, any of your past physical injury spots, that's what's going to flare. Um, Cancer. If you've had a past history of cancer and you go through an insane amount of stress, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but that's when cancer gets reflared. We know that cancer then can spike when we're in a more stressed state. So your body, people who have psoriasis, when they get stressed, their psoriasis kicks on. People who lose their hair, like when they get stressed, they start to lose their hair. So bodies present stress differently. Like we're all a little bit different, but we have patterns. And so when we stay in a very stressed out state, that sympathetic state for prolonged time, it's just so important to understand you should expect your body to start having physical pain or physical symptoms. Mentally, that'll sometimes it can, if you're somebody who deals with chronic anxiety, chronic depression, like some type of a mental imbalance that can affect your life or an addiction, those things are going to flare when we're in stress for a long time. So just understanding, like, I don't know why this all of a sudden happened. It all of a sudden happened because you've been in sympathetic stress mode for too long and your body has not recharged. It's not that something is so bad, it's that your stress needs to calm down. So that was really eye-opening for her to understand. And then there's the over and under doing pattern. I don't, I've talked about this in the past, but I'll go over this again. Your physical body has a bunch of different types of tissues, skin, bones, ligaments, tendons, and those tissues will decondition and go down with two types of behavior patterns. Like guaranteed they're going to go down the drain. One of them is called over underdoing, and one of them is called fear avoidance. So my neighbor I was just telling you about, she didn't understand why she really flared bad. But then she told me she had like cleaned her entire apartment, cleaned her whole her daughter's whole apartment or house before they were gonna sell it, and then all this stuff for the holidays. She had 3 days in a row of go, go, go. So she flared. And when we flare, it typically is like a 3 day thing then where you physically are really resting for 3 days. You can't do your everyday activities. And that's what happened. So she had 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of just not being able to do anything after having 3 crazy days. And so she took a bath. And she goes, I took a bath, an Epsom salt bath, thinking that would help. But she took a really hot bath and she laid in the tub for 40 minutes. And so she got out and she was even more flared. She's like, I finally felt better, but that flared me more. I said, yes, because hot water is a stressor to the body. It will flare you if it's like past 100 degrees. It's too aggressive of a temperature. But 100-degree water where it's warm, super calming to the nervous system. The body, when it's flared, it hates stationary or one position. If you ever notice when you're in pain, you're going to move around a lot because the body hates prolonged pressure. So you're going to, well, if you're laying in a bathtub for 40 minutes, you're not moving for 40 minutes. The body does not like that. So for her, but I explained all that and she's like, oh my God, I didn't. So she didn't even know like these behavioral patterns of what she was doing was causing her to keep flaring. So it's not that she's got something, like she's so worried she needs an MRI. No, you need to change your behavior patterns. So I'm just saying all of these things because there's probably a lot of you out there right now who are dealing with some serious health stuff and you're freaking out and you're like, oh my God, what's wrong? And you go into this doctor and that doctor and you're not getting an idea of what's going on because guess what? There's no test that shows this. There's no blood work. There's no MRI. There's no X-ray that's going to show you're not getting enough parasympathetic time. But your body's going to be like screaming at you. So just a little like example
Right.
of this.
Yeah. I think one of the important things to like what I had mentioned previously is like when you're really stressed out, it's really hard for you to consume external stimulation as well. So one of the best ways to get yourself back into that parasympathetic system, the calm one, right, Molly?
Yeah, yeah.
Parasympathetic is calm.
Yep. That's our rest and
I
digest.
I always get it back. Yeah, perfect.
You've got
Is
it right
to
every time we
reduce
talk.
the stimulation. Really? I have to think about it really hard
You are so
whenever I say
funny.
it. Um, so one of the best ways is to reduce the external stimulation that you're consuming. And that looks different for everybody. So, Molly just gave the example of putting like the sound bowls on her body. She probably likes that because it reduces all of the external stimulation to just the stimulation of the bowls on her body. She can tune anything else out. So the amount of stimulation that she's getting in is a lot less. Um, what it looks like for you might differ. A walk outside might help, or going and laying on the ground might help for 5 minutes. Um, you need to figure out what works for you, what cuts out all of the noise so that you can just be still for a minute.
Yeah. It's funny. So the sound bowls, I bring these into all my appointments now. and I use them in the beginning of the appointment to like set
Mhm.
people, and I do it right before they leave. So I leave the room. It gives me time to wash my hands and do my notes. And then it shuts off at 3 minutes. I said, when it's done, get up and get ready. And I would say 75% of my patients are in love with them. But I've got about 25% people where it overwhelms them. It's too much. And so just because one thing works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So I'm going to give like a lot of examples of what is parasympathetic mode. So number one, sympathetic mode, which is our go, go, go mode, is awesome. We're not saying it's bad. It's our powerhouse, awesome, get shit done. And then parasympathetic mode is our rest and digest, do nothing mode. But we can only recharge our battery, and our immune system can only heal, and our body can only recharge. Like, I don't know what other word to use, like recharge. There's so many systems that are involved. It can only do that in parasympathetic mode. So the way to think about your body, if you're an iPhone, you are using your iPhone all day long to get shit done. You're calling people, you're texting people, you're emailing people. That's sympathetic mode. And at the end of the day, your battery is probably drained because you used it all day. And then you're going to plug it into the charger. That's your parasympathetic mode. And if you don't plug it in, what's going to happen is the next day you're going to wake up like I do and you're like, shit, my phone is dead. And you're going to be so annoyed and
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to use your phone for, I don't know, an hour. However, it depends on your charger speed. Depends on if you can find a charger and how fast your charger speeds. How quickly you can charge it. But you can't get stuff done. It's annoying. That's what you all are doing to your body. You're not charging your battery, and the next day you can't get stuff done without feeling like exhausted and drained, and then it makes life miserable because you're operating on an empty battery. And then your body's going to do that day after day after day, and it is going to absolutely manifest illness, like guaranteed. So, how do we recharge the battery? That's parasympathetic mode. I mentioned earlier I do mindful eating. Every time we eat, that's the rest and digest mode. Have you ever noticed when you finally settle down for the day and you're rested, you might all of a sudden get really hungry. You're like, oh my God, I'm starving all of a sudden because you're in that mode. So when you
Mhm.
eat, can you be alone, like completely alone, and no phone, no nothing, and just hyper focus on the texture, on the taste, on the colors, and let that be like the only experience you have for 10 minutes? Because that's what I do. And it is, by the way, I just love food. So like I love doing that. My husband makes fun of me because I will literally take my food and go in my bedroom. And I'm like, I'm gonna go eat right now. And he's like, why don't you just eat down here? I'm like, because it's chaos down here. And I want to be alone right now. Like, because I can't do mindful eating around my kids. Like, oh my God. Anything around kids is not parasympathetic mode, by the way. Um, besides cuddling when they're sleeping,
Yes.
they are mayhem.
When they're
I
sleeping.
love them, but anyways, eating. When you go out to eat with family and friends, that's parasympathetic mode. Even if it is busy and stuff around you, like when you're sitting and talking to people, your brain cannot think about other stuff and your body is rested. So recharge mode is when your mind and your body are in a more restful state. So walking is a more restful state, but it's still movement. So walking is really, really good. But I would give it like the way I want you to think about the activities you do. I always tell my patients, I'm like, we're gonna call, we're gonna kind of like label it. So sleep is that's the fast charge. Like nothing is gonna be better than sleep as far as recharging your battery goes. Second to that is meditation. Like truly, it's being in a meditative state, putting on a meditation, um, being outside. Being outside is so healing for the body. I can't tell you. So that's why like going for a walk is really good. I had a patient just tell me that she loves to just float in a raft in her pool. I was like, nothing better. Like that's a fast charge right there.
Mhm.
She said, I love sitting on my chair in the patio and throwing the dog the ball. Fast charge right there. Cuddling with your pets, like rubbing your face in their fur, smelling them. That is such good parasympathetic time. Time with people you really love being around that are not energy draining and socializing with them. So good. Like, because you're just sitting and chatting, you're not doing anything hard. Um, I'm trying to think of other like really simple, easy examples. Of course, diaphragmatic breathing. There's like the tapping techniques, my bowls, like there's acupuncture, chiropractic, getting a massage. All these things are great for getting you in parasympathetic mode. But you have to, like the rule of thumb that I follow is you have to try as much as you can. It's not a perfect science. You really want to get at least 50-50. So if I just went hard all day, did I at least get 12 hours in parasympathetic mode? Because if I didn't, like I haven't been because of what's been going on in my life, I've been way more in sympathetic mode, and I'm very aware of that. But I'm not going to continue this pattern. Now, if I continued to get 75% parasympathetic and only 25% charge for like 6 months in a row, I'm going to 1 million% expect that I'm going to have some physical problem that's going to occur or a mental problem. Like I'm going to lose it. Um, so it's just
Mhm.
understanding how much time. And when I ask my patients how much time they get in these modes, I just had a patient, they told me 60-40. They said they get 60% in sympathetic, 40% in parasympathetic. So she comes back a week later. And she comes in for her eval. This was on the phone. And she goes, I lied to you. She goes, after I talked to you, she goes, I realized I only get 10% in parasympathetic. I'm really doing like 90% sympathetic mode after you described it in those ways. And I was like, okay. And she's hurting. She's going through a lot of stuff. So when you're in like you're already in the drain, like you're already operating at E for a long time, I think you need more. I'm like, I think you need 60% parasympathetic, 40% sympathetic. And can we adapt your life right now with how much stressors it has to get that? Not always, but we're going to try. Like, how much shit can we offload in your life? How much responsibilities, how much stimuli can we offload so you have enough time to let your battery recharge? Um, and if you don't, like, there is no quick fix, there is no medication, there is no amount of therapy
Yeah.
that is going to recharge your battery. Uh, there's no quick fix.
Mhm.
So, anyways,
Yeah. It's really important to figure out what works for you. I work with a lot of clients who are in like high stress jobs, and they all do something at the end of their workday that designates, okay, work is over, and now I'm shifting to a parasympathetic state. So whether it not, it's like pulling up your car and sitting in your car for 10 minutes to be like, okay, work is done. I'm going inside and I'm at home now. Like this is home. When I get done, I on Tuesdays and Thursdays I've been with clients all day from 9 to 5. I get home, I walk in, it drives my husband crazy. I walk in the door and I go straight upstairs. I don't say hi to anybody. 'Cause, if you say hi, all the kids will attack you and then you're theirs for the evening. So I sneak in and I go straight upstairs and I take a shower for like 10 minutes. I was at work. I was doing all of this brain work. I was stressed out-ish. I was more stressed than at home.
it's
And
a
now I'm
lot
at
of
home and
giving.
now I can
Yeah.
settle down. Yeah, right. And then I come downstairs, I light my candle, and I relax. I sit in my kids call it my robot chair because it gives you back massages as you sit there. So everybody has their thing.
Katie, I love that. It's so funny you said that because so I'm the same way. My husband knows, like, so all I do now, all I do is say, I'm overstimulated. And that is my key phrase of don't talk to me. I can't do anything for anybody right now. And when I come home, I will do that after treating. I will just go straight to my room. And he just knows that now because it used to trigger him. It used to make him feel like I didn't care about him. And we had to talk about it. And I was like, I
Mhm.
totally think all those are valid and that experience is valid. And I was like, but here's the experience I'm having, and like here's what I need to do to take care of myself, and I just can't take care of your needs in that moment. But when I recharge and I get
Right.
a little bump, because I'm on E when I get home from treating, when I get a little bump, which I get from being alone and being
Mhm.
in that shower, I can come out and I can give that away to you and the kids. But I have nothing to give when I get home. So you're not even gonna get a good version of me. Like you don't even want that Molly, because that Molly's grumpy.
Yes.
And that Molly doesn't want to be touched or kissed or talked to. So,
Mhm.
anyways,
Yeah, absolutely. But it's important to play around with what works for you because it's going to look different from person to person.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about
And I think,
on this topic? Or other
no, not
examples given?
necessarily, but I do want to say, I don't think so. I do want to say though, it's really important to use these coping strategies to get into that parasympathetic mode during this part of the year. Especially if you're anticipating it being stressful for you or high tension. You want to make sure that you're being very mindful about giving yourself the rest that you need to, to maybe hold your tongue at these family functions or, not wear yourself out going from one thing to another thing. So use these coping strategies now prior to all of the stressful events beginning. You want to
Yeah.
build up that reserve.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you go into a family get together and you're feeling overwhelmed already about the family gathering and topics that might get brought up and you're on E, I promise you you will not handle it well because your prefrontal
No.
cortex, it's not in connection anymore with the limbic system, the emotional system. They're disconnected and you're going to like turn into an animal essentially. Like that's how I think about it. I mean, seriously, they disconnect. We never will be our best
Yeah.
version when we're on E. That is when you become the version that you don't like of yourself. And we all have that version. There's nobody immune to that. That's when we scream and yell at our kids. That's when we say things that we regret later. How you avoid that is you recharge your battery. Even if you only have 20%, but before you go into these meetings that are going to be maybe these family gatherings that are maybe going to be very energy draining, just charge the crap out of your battery as much as you can before going in, and it'll be a 10 million times better experience, and you will behave in a way that you'll feel proud of in that moment and then afterwards. So.
Yeah.
I hope this was helpful. I hope that whoever's listening to this needed this message today. And we love you all. Thank you for listening to us. Send us emails for any topics you want us to cover.
Bye-bye.
We are Dr. Molly Hart and Dr. Katie Schubert, and you've been listening to Sex on the Floor podcast. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions and want to get in contact with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Dr. Molly Hart and at Dr. Katie Schubert, on Facebook at Pelvic Balance PT and at Dr. Katie Schubert. And for more information about us on our websites, you can find us at pelvicbalancept.com and at drkatieschubert.com.